I'm back. Rhodes Rants on Star Wars, more specifically, the Clone Wars returning. As we know, this Friday, probably around 2 a.m. Central, 3 a.m. Central, the Clone Wars will return after a long, grueling hiatus for us Star Wars fans. Well, I've got an article here that will give us a better idea of what to expect. The Clone Wars Season 7 premiere brings the war to Star Wars and hints of closure. After a long road to the Clone Wars, the final season, the animated series returns to wrap up a story over a decade in the making. The opening episodes of the new season, which debut Friday, this Friday, look at me, a little giddy about it, exclusively on Disney Plus, are by turns thrilling, funny, and as good as anything series live action side has ever turned out. But appreciating how far the Clone Wars have traveled to get to this point is impossible without tracing the series' previous steps. After cancellation, a return of familiar story arcs. Minor spoilers for this entire series ahead. A preview of the new episode's plots. The series began in 2008, airing first on Cartoon Network before moving to Netflix and now residing on Disney Plus. The Clone Wars ran for 6 seasons, but unfortunately series creator Dave Filoni had plotted it to run for 8, so the show never reached its conclusion. Failing to create closure for fan favorites like Anakin Skywalker's Padawan Ahsoka Tano or clone trooper Captain Rex of the Grand Army of the Republic. Both Filoni and his characters moved on to Star Wars Rebels, filling in some of the blanks of the backstory, but it wasn't the same. This is where it gets interesting as hell. Then, last December, The Mandalorian's twist ending provided the first solid link between the animated series and the live-action storylines that set up this week's moment for the Clone Wars. To bring in the viewership it always deserves and be recognized as an equal to live-action stories. When the show was effectively canceled in 2014, the final story arcs wound up in various other forms. These unfinished tales could have been left by the wayside by Lucasfilm. However, they commissioned one final 12-episode season. The first of these arcs to get the Disney Plus treatment, as I've discovered in the first 2 episodes, it is a story informally known as The Bad Batch. Out of all the unproduced stories Filoni and company could have chosen, it's a savvy pick. The story focuses on Captain Rex. A main lead since the 2008 TV movie, he teams up with Anakin Skywalker on a mission to liberate the planet Annexus from Admiral Trench, a Hark naval commander fighting on the side of the Confederacy of the Independent Systems against the Republic. During the fight, Rex discovers one of his fellow clone troopers, long believed to be dead, is being held hostage. The Leave No Soldier Behind mission that follows puts the war in Star Wars, something the live-action films have regularly left to the imagination. Even though Rex may not be a familiar face to those just tuning in, he immediately establishes himself as a sympathetic commander, and a familiar military film trope is a good entry point for any Disney Plus viewer. For those who have watched earlier seasons and remember the sacrifice of character Rex is set upon rescuing, it's a moment of triumph to finally see him return. Also, we get a welcome and tasteful amount of comic relief from the Bad Batch characters. The name The Bad Batch refers to Clone Force 99, a set of clones who came out with accidental mutations. These mutations make them super soldiers of sort with nicknames such as Wrecker, Tech, Crosshair, and so on. Sounds like a bunch of G.I. Joe guys. But the mutations also make the heroes socially awkward misfits. For those who know their Star Wars lore, these clones, who right now are funny and heroic, will suddenly turn into the murdering monsters when Order 66 is given. So letting the audiences have one more chance to root for them before the show reaches that moment also sets up how complicated the war can be. We've got to remember, one of the glorious things about this is we are going to see in the Clone Wars intertwine with Revenge of the Sith. Okay, we will see Order 66 in this series. Speaking of oncoming tragedy, hadn't all but confirmed logic dictates that the season will eventually include the infamous story of the Siege of Mandalore, one of the final battles of the Clone Wars. This story pits Ahsoka, the first female Jedi protagonist introduced to the Star Wars canon, and the best, against ex-Sith Lord Darth Maul, as she and Captain Rex attempt to apprehend and bring him to justice. Not only will the Siege of Mandalore tie into the streaming services hit The Mandalorian, but it is also previously revealed that the story famously cried the first time she heard it, Eckstein. The novel Ahsoka, who describes this adventure as climaxing with a duel between Jedi heroine and Darth Maul, a fight Filoni has promised is among the best duels, if not the best, we've ever had. The Clone Wars, in its way, has been a slow rehabilitation of the prequel era. The final seasons seem to be pushing to complete reclamation. And that's where we're going to stop. So, very interesting. It's going to tie into The Mandalorian. We suspected, but now we know it's tying into The Mandalorian. I am very interested to see, is there a chance we see an animated Moff Gideon in this Clone Wars series? He's got the dark saber. We've seen it at the end of The Mandalorian in that epic finale reveal. I can't wait. Friday cannot get here quick enough. Hopefully, I will get up extra early and watch it and then try to get a review of the first episode up before I go to work. I am so excited. Star Wars, big baby. Peace. I'm out. Until next time. I got King Kong in the trunk.